Have you ever wondered if you're the retirement planning equivalent of that person who shows up to a potluck with store-bought cookies while everyone else brought homemade lasagna? Maybe you're lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at your 401k statement and wondering if that balance makes you a retirement rock star, or if you should start practicing the phrase, "Would you like fries with that?" for your golden years. Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the financial reality of American retirement savings, and I guarantee some of these numbers are going to shock you. Some might make you feel like you're winning at life, while others might send you straight to your HR department to increase your contributions. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time analyzing retirement data so you don't have to. If you're interested in finding out whether your 409k balance puts you ahead of the pack or behind the curve, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this information helps you sleep better at night. Before we dive into these eye-opening statistics, let me ask you something. When you think about the average person's 401k situation, what comes to mind? Do you picture someone who's got their retirement act together, steadily building wealth and preparing for their future? Or do you imagine someone who's basically hoping Social Security doesn't disappear and maybe winning the lottery? The truth is, most of us have absolutely no clue what normal actually looks like when it comes to retirement savings. We might have assumptions based on what we see around us, but the reality is often very different from what we imagine. And here's the thing that makes this whole topic so fascinating. Understanding these numbers isn't just about satisfying your curiosity or making yourself feel better about your own situation. It's about giving you the information you need to make smarter decisions with your retirement planning. Think about it this way. If you're trying to get in shape, wouldn't you want to know what the average person weighs or how much they exercise? If you're trying to improve your career, wouldn't you want to know how your salary compares to others in your field? Retirement savings work the same way. When you understand where you stand compared to everyone else, you can make more informed choices about your contributions, your investment strategy, and your timeline for financial independence. So let's start with the big picture numbers that everyone's talking about in 2025. According to the most recent data from major retirement plan providers, the average 401k balance reached record highs by the end of 2024, with some reports showing average balances hitting around $148,000. Now, before you start feeling too good or too bad about that number, remember, this includes everyone from 22-year-olds who just started their first job to 65-year-olds who have been contributing for decades. It's like averaging the height of kindergartners with NBA players and calling it normal. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something most people completely miss. The median 401k balance tells a completely different story, sitting at around $38,000. That's a massive gap between the average and the median, and it reveals something crucial about retirement savings in America. The averages are being skewed upward by a relatively small number of people who have accumulated substantial wealth, while the median shows us what the typical person actually has saved. Let me put this in perspective. If you lined up 100 people with 401k accounts from lowest balance to highest balance, the person standing in the middle would have around $38,000. Meanwhile, the few people at the end of the line with massive balances are pulling that average way up to $148,000. It's like saying the average person in a room with 9 regular folks and 1 billionaire is worth over $100 million. Or technically true, but not exactly helpful for understanding reality. Now, the really exciting news for 2025 is what's happening at the top end of the retirement savings spectrum. We're witnessing something that's never happened before in the history of 401k plans. The number of 401k millionaires reached an all-time high, with over 650,000 Americans now having at least 7 figures in their workplace retirement accounts. That's up from about 595,000 just a few months earlier, representing the 6th consecutive quarter of growth in this exclusive club. But here's what I find absolutely fascinating about these 409k millionaires. They're not all 70-year-old executives who've been saving for half a century. The average 401k millionaire is about 59 years old and has been contributing to their employer's plan for roughly 25 years. That means they started seriously saving for retirement in their mid-30s, which is encouraging news for anyone who feels like they're getting a late start. Even more surprising is what's happening with younger generations. Millennials now represent about 4% of all 401k millionaires, which has more than doubled from just a year ago. Meanwhile, women who've been consistently investing for 15 years now have average balances exceeding $500,000 for the first time in history. These aren't just feel-good statistics. They're proof that consistent long-term investing can create substantial wealth, even for people who aren't earning massive salaries. The secret sauce behind these millionaire accounts isn't complicated or mysterious. The average 401k millionaire saves about 17.6% of their income, and when you include employer matching, their total contribution rate hits about 26%. They're not timing the market or picking hot stocks. They're simply contributing consistently and letting compound interest work its magic over time. Speaking of contribution rates, let's talk about what the average person is actually doing with their retirement savings. The typical American contributes about 9.5% of their salary to their 401k, while employers kick in another 4.7% through matching contributions. That brings the combined savings rate to about 14.2%, which is actually pretty close to what financial experts recommend. But here's where things get interesting when we start breaking down the numbers by age. Or these broad averages mask some pretty dramatic differences between generations, and understanding these differences is crucial for figuring out whether you're on track or falling behind. The 2025 data shows some trends that might surprise you. For starters, the strong performance of financial markets throughout 2024 has been a major driver of increased 401k balances across all age groups. The S&P 500 was up about 14% through September, the Nasdaq gained 17%, and even the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 9%. These gains have helped boost account balances, but they've also highlighted the importance of staying invested during market volatility. What's really encouraging is how people behaved during periods of market uncertainty. Despite some turbulent trading days earlier in the year, only about 5.5% of retirement savers made changes to their asset allocation. The vast majority stayed the course, continuing to make their regular contributions even when the market was bouncing around like a pinball machine. This kind of disciplined behavior is exactly what separates successful retirement savers from those who end up working until they're 75. The regulatory environment has also shifted in favor of retirement savers in 2025. The maximum 401k contribution limit increased to $23,500, up from $23,000 in 2024. That might not sound like a huge increase, but every extra dollar you can contribute today becomes multiple dollars in retirement thanks to compound growth. Even more significant is the new super catch-up provision that kicked in this year. Workers between ages 60 and 63 can now contribute an additional $250 to their 401k accounts, bringing their total potential contribution to $30,750 annually. This represents the most aggressive catch-up opportunity in the history of employer-sponsored retirement plans, and it's specifically designed to help people who are approaching retirement but realize they haven't saved enough. But before we get too excited about these higher contribution limits, we need to address the elephant in the room. The reality is that most Americans aren't maxing out their current contribution limits, let alone taking advantage of these enhanced opportunities. The disconnect between what's possible and what's actually happening becomes crystal clear when you look at the age-by-age breakdown, and honestly, some of these numbers might make you want to hide under your desk. Let's start with the youngest workers, those under 25 who are just getting their financial feet wet. The average 401k balance for this group sits at around $6,900, but the median tells a different story at just $1,900. Now, if you're 23 years old and you've got nearly $2,000 saved for retirement, you're actually doing better than half the people in your age group. Sure, it's not enough to buy a decent used car, but it's a foundation that compound interest can work with over the next 4 decades. Here's where it gets interesting though. That $1,900 median means half of all workers under 25 have less than that amount saved. Some have zero. Others might have a few $100s from a summer job contribution. The point is, if you're in your early 20s and you feel like you're behind because you don't have tens of thousands saved, relax. Most people your age are in the same boat, probably scrolling through social media instead of reading retirement planning articles. Here is the math that will blow your mind. If you start saving at age 20, every single dollar you save can become about $88 by retirement. That's the power of the wealth multiplier. But watch what happens if you wait. By age 30, that same dollar you save is only worth about $23 at retirement. You've already lost $65 of potential growth just by waiting 10 years. And if you wait until your 50s, each dollar grows to less than $3. The math is brutal, but fair. Time is doing the heavy lifting, not your wallet. Moving into the late 20s and early 30s, the numbers start to get more substantial, but they also reveal some harsh realities about how difficult it can be to build wealth in your 30s. Workers in this age group have an average 401k balance of around $40,000, with many financial experts suggesting you should have at least 1 year's worth of salary saved by age 30. The challenge is that the average salary for full-time workers aged 25 to 34 is about $57,500, which means many 30-somethings are falling short of that benchmark. But before you panic, remember that your 30s are often when life gets expensive fast. You might be paying off student loans, saving for a house down payment, getting married, or starting a family. It's no wonder retirement savings sometimes take a backseat to more immediate financial pressures. The 40s represent a critical inflection point in retirement planning, and the numbers reflect both progress and persistent challenges. The average 401k balance for people in their 40s jumps significantly, but it's still nowhere near where financial planners think it should be. The conventional wisdom suggests you should have 3 times your annual salary saved by age 40, but the reality is that many people are still playing catch-up from their 20s and 30s. What's particularly interesting about the 40-something demographic is how much variation exists within the group. Some people are hitting their stride professionally and financially, maximizing their contributions and taking advantage of employer matching. Others are dealing with peak family expenses, aging parents, or career transitions that make aggressive retirement saving challenging. The result is a wide spread between those who are crushing their retirement goals and those who are wondering if they'll ever catch up. The 50s bring both urgency and opportunity to retirement planning. This is when many people finally have the financial breathing room to get serious about retirement savings, and it's also when the catch-up contribution provisions really start to matter. Workers over 50 can contribute an additional $7,500 to their 401k accounts, bringing their total potential contribution to $31,000 annually for 2025. The average 401k balance for people in their 50s reaches impressive levels, with some data showing averages around $590,000 and medians closer to $250,000. These numbers reflect decades of contributions and compound growth, but they also highlight the retirement reality that many people face. That sounds like a lot of money, but let's do the actual math. If you retire with that $250,000 median and live for another 25 years, that breaks down to just $10,000 per year, or about $833 per month. That is only about $833 per month. Ask yourself, can you live on $833 a month? Even with Social Security, that is an incredibly tight budget. That's why the big number in your account matters less than the monthly income it actually generates. This is where the conversation gets uncomfortable for a lot of people. The numbers show that even those who've been diligent savers throughout their careers might not have enough to maintain their current lifestyle in retirement without making some significant adjustments. It's not necessarily their fault. Healthcare costs have exploded, life expectancy has increased, and the shift from pension plans to 401k accounts has placed more responsibility on individual workers to fund their own retirement. The gender gap in retirement savings adds another layer of complexity to these numbers. Women consistently have lower 401k balances than men across all age groups, with research showing that women have about 32% less saved by retirement time. The reasons are frustratingly predictable: lower lifetime earnings due to wage gaps, career interruptions for caregiving responsibilities, and longer lifespans that require retirement savings to stretch further. Among women nearing retirement, the median 401k balance is significantly lower than their male counterparts, and this gap compounds over time due to the mathematics of compound interest. A smaller starting balance earning the same returns will always result in a smaller ending balance, which means women face a double challenge of earning less during their working years and needing their retirement savings to last longer. The data also reveals some encouraging trends that suggest Americans are getting more serious about retirement planning. Automatic enrollment in 401k plans has dramatically increased participation rates, with nearly 70% of plans now automatically enrolling new employees. Even more importantly, many of these plans include automatic escalation features that gradually increase contribution rates over time. This automation is crucial because it removes the human element from retirement savings decisions. People don't have to remember to increase their contributions or overcome the psychological barriers that prevent them from reducing their take-home pay. The money comes out before they see it, and their contribution rate increases gradually enough that they barely notice the impact on their monthly budget. Employer matching remains one of the most underutilized benefits in American workplaces. The average employer match is about 4.6% of salary, and roughly 86% of 401k plans offer some type of matching contribution. Yet millions of workers aren't contributing enough to capture their full employer match, essentially leaving free money on the table. It's like your boss offering to give you a raise and you politely declining because you'd rather have a smaller paycheck. The power of consistent contributions becomes obvious when you look at the long-term data. Workers who maintain steady contribution rates and resist the temptation to cash out their accounts during job changes accumulate substantially more wealth than those who treat their 401k like a piggy bank to be raided during financial emergencies. But perhaps the most important insight from all of this data isn't about the specific dollar amounts people have saved. It's about the behavior patterns that separate successful retirement savers from everyone else. The 401k millionaires didn't get there by making perfect investment choices or timing the market. They got there by starting early, contributing consistently, and staying invested through multiple market cycles. This pattern holds true regardless of income level, which is probably the most encouraging finding in all the retirement data. You don't need to be earning six figures to become a 401k millionaire, though it certainly doesn't hurt. What you need is time, consistency, and the discipline to treat your future self better than your present self wants to be treated. And honestly, your future self is going to be pretty grateful you chose the boring mutual fund over that jet ski you absolutely had to have. The contribution behavior data reveals some fascinating insights about human psychology and money. When employers automatically enroll workers at a 3% contribution rate, most people just stick with that rate forever. It's like financial autopilot, except instead of flying you to your destination, it's flying you to a retirement where your biggest splurge is the premium cat food. But when plans automatically increase contribution rates by 1% annually, participants end up saving significantly more without really noticing the difference. This is where the magic of behavioral economics meets retirement planning. Most people will do whatever requires the least effort, which explains why automatic enrollment has been such a game changer. Before automatic enrollment became common, participation rates in 401k plans hovered around 60%. Now, plans with automatic enrollment see participation rates above 90%. Apparently, the hardest part of saving for retirement isn't the saving part, it's the getting started part. The investment choices people make within their 401k accounts tell another interesting story about human nature. Despite having access to dozens of investment options, the vast majority of participants stick with target date funds or balanced funds. These aren't necessarily bad choices, but they're definitely safe choices. Like the adventurous investors who try to beat the market by picking individual stocks or rotating between different sectors typically end up with lower returns than those who just set it and forget it. And market timing remains the financial equivalent of trying to catch lightning in a bottle while riding a unicycle. The data consistently shows that people who try to time their 401k contributions or investment allocations based on market conditions end up worse off than those who just keep contributing regardless of what's happening in the news. During the market volatility of 2024, the participants who stayed the course saw their balances recover and grow, while those who panicked and moved to cash missed out on substantial gains. The geographic variations in 401k balances add another layer to this story. Workers in high-cost areas like San Francisco and New York tend to have higher average balances, but they also face much higher living expenses that make it harder to save. Meanwhile, workers in lower-cost regions might have smaller absolute balances, but potentially more purchasing power in retirement. It's like comparing apples to very expensive apples that cost 3 times as much but taste the same. Industry differences are equally telling. Technology workers and financial services employees tend to have the highest 401k balances, partly due to higher salaries, but also because these industries often offer more generous employer matching. Healthcare workers and educators, despite providing essential services, often lag behind in retirement savings due to lower compensation and fewer employer benefits. It's almost like we've decided that the people who keep us healthy and educated don't deserve comfortable retirements, which seems like a questionable societal priority. The impact of student loan debt on retirement savings cannot be overstated, particularly for younger workers. Many people in their 20s and 30s are caught between paying off educational debt and saving for retirement, creating a financial tug-of-war that often leaves retirement savings on the losing end. The average college graduate leaves school with about $30,000 in student loan debt, and those monthly payments directly compete with 401k contributions for disposable income. So there you have it, the complete picture of where Americans stand with their 401k balances in 2025. Whether you're sitting pretty with 6 figures or staring at a balance that wouldn't cover a decent vacation, remember that successful retirement saving isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Start where you are, contribute what you can, and let time work its compound interest magic. Your future self will thank you, even if your present self occasionally grumbles about eating ramen instead of sushi.